Hello everyone and welcome to a meticulously crafted, attractive, fun and a practical hatchback, the 2024 Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition. So the new Mazda 3 Sport is offered in 9 different variations depending on the front wheel drive, all wheel drive options and the 2 different engine options based on the trim levels that you opt for. So the first variant is the GX front wheel drive, then the GS front wheel drive, then the GS luxury package comes in front wheel drive and all wheel drive option, then the GT 6 speed manual transmission option but only comes in the front wheel drive option, then there is the GT all wheel drive and the GT front wheel drive option, whereas the GT all wheel drive option now is offered in a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, whereas the variants before that were all in 2.5 liter engine. And there is this edition which is the Suna Edition, which is an all-wheel drive, comes with a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine and an all-wheel drive system. But let me start off first with this paint option, which is the zircon sand metallic paint option given on this thing, which is the latest addition to this Mazda 3 lineup, and it all just is designed so well, which is why I said it's meticulously designed. So let me start off with the front. You have this big massive glossy black grille out here with the Mazda badging in here, and then these headlights that are like in a flowing design and a rather smooth bumper. That is because it's much more aerodynamic, this car. It's very smooth, very minimalist curves on it, and at the bottom normal plastic bumper at the lower side. And when you come to these headlights, these are fully LED headlight cluster. These are the dynamic headlight clusters. So instead of the cornering lights, these headlight clusters have bits inside that move around along with your steering so that they can point in that direction, whichever direction you're turning into. And there are also turn lights given on the top, and those are again the LED ones, and there is also a ring which is the DRLs given on it. There is also a camera mounted in the front windscreen for the adaptive cruise control and all the various safety systems given on this Suna Edition. And underneath the bonnet sits a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder SKYACTIV turbocharged engine. So starting off from the sides, let me begin with the design. So you wouldn't notice any lines on these panels. Actually, they are just rounded panels. Even here on the door, just a smooth round curve on the door and like a single piece going till the bottom, only a line at the bottom, that's about it. So the shape itself is quite curvy if you look at it, and even aerodynamic in many sense. And when you come to these tires, these are 18-inch black color alloy rims, and there are brake disc and calipers on the inside, and there is also a half chrome strip at the bottom of these windows and normal seal black one on the top. There is also a normal sunroof given on this 3 Suna Edition, a normal plastic trim given at the bottom to make it much more sportier in terms of its appearance. It does look sporty slightly, and there is also a gentle curve on the fender in the back and also a little bit in the front too, which fades out and nicely merges onto the side fender. When you come to these side mirrors, these are black color side mirrors, glossy black, and this is just for the Suna Edition, and they are non-power foldable but power adjustable side mirrors. They have the blind spot warning on the inside. There is also a turn signal given on them too. There is one of the cameras from the 360-degree camera system, which by the way is just absolutely amazing. Now when you come to these doors, the front doors are keyless entry doors. There is also a Mazda 3 illuminated badging on the door sills, even in the back, a very roundish shape, and a small glossy black spoiler given in the back. So in the rear, the curvy nature of the car continues with these subtle lines, and there are no sharp edges at all even on the bumper, so they look much more roundish in terms of its design. Even the whole back end is kind of curving around with this trunk door also curving too. When you come to these tail lights, these are full set of LED tail light cluster, dual lights on the back, turn signals, reversing lights, everything is LED. And when it comes to the visibility, it's actually slightly restricted because it's quite narrow that way and it's sloping, so the visibility is slightly restricted in that sense. There is also a rear wiper given on this thing, and the Mazda 3 all-wheel drive badging in chrome, and on the other side SKYACTIV G turbo badging and the main Mazda badging out here. At the bottom, glossy plastic bumper with the reflectors on either side, and you would notice dual exhaust tips, and these are the real exhaust tips and not the fake ones. And in some way the exhaust actually sounds quite good on this thing. It's much more throaty. And in order to open the boot door, the button is given underneath this Mazda badge. You open that. So when the rear seats are folded up, you can put 569 liters of luggage in the back, which is pretty decent for a hatchback, and the reason being that it's quite deep that way, so there is quite a bit of step on this thing, so you have to actually put the luggage in and kind of lift it a little bit and then take it out. There are also scuff plates given in the back, and also additional metal scuff plates given on the bumper so that you don't damage this exclusive paint job given on this thing. There are also rubber mats given in the back in the Mazda 3 badging on it. There are also rubber mats given in the front and for all the passengers basically, so that it's just more easier to clean them up and remove it, and a rather even boot space. There's also a boot separator provided, but that boot separator can easily be removed. These strings can be removed and then give it a knock and then let it sit at the bottom. That's the only thing. It consumes a little bit of space, but you can leave it in the parking also if you feel like not taking this, if it consumes a lot of space. There are also boot lights given in the back. Now the rear seats are foldable in a ratio of 60:40. To do that, quite easy. Press the button and fold down these seats. Now when the rear seats are folded down, you can put 1334 liters of luggage in the back, which is pretty decent again for a hatchback, because at least it gives you a very even space in the back. There is not much step or anything, just that the seats have a slight bit of slope, but not too much to hinder the usage of the boot space when the seats are folded down. But really nice sort of arrangement given on this thing. And at the bottom of the boot floor sits a temporary spare wheel along with your tool kit. So even though the boot floor has been deep enough, but does not eliminate the spare wheel or anything. And in order to close the trunk door, you have to manually do that, but it's still quite smooth on this Mazda 3. Now Mazda is one of the few OEMs that blends practicality, premiumness and also a space in a very elegant way, and this 3 is no exception to that. So let me begin with the material quality. So the dashboard itself has several layers and sort of curves and designs all over it, but it still has a very good fit and finish and very solidly built, that's for sure. So soft touch material on the dashboard, very soft sometimes, yes, that's actually pretty good material. Even on the door cards, yes, soft material, and where you're going to be resting hands, that's soft material with the terracotta stitching, which is kind of an orange color stitching on the handrest and even on the top bit where the door handle is. And there also you will find the suede material, and the suede material is wrapped around even on the dashboard, this middle layer. This suede material also has the terracotta stitching, and this material adds a lot of premiumness to the cabin feel, especially then the Bose grills given on either side. Even on the center console out here, the same material wrapped side console. At the bottom, just normal plastic. Even on the door cards, it's normal plastic. Glove box is normal plastic, but the plastic quality is actually quite good, and not the cheap plastic just thrown in because it has to be plastic. So the focus has been not to just give you like any just cheap materials, but in fact give you like decent materials so that they last long and also they feel good when you touch those surfaces. And also these seats, these are dual tone seats, so the middle bit is suede material, whereas on the edges it's the terracotta material. So the combination is black and terracotta combination on the inside of this car. At first I thought the combination looked a bit odd with the zircon sand metallic paint job on the outside and this color on the inside, but once you start looking at it more often, you are convinced that yes, this is the sort of combination that works very well. So yeah, the material quality overall is quite good, I would say. At certain places it's just the glossy plastic around this gear shifter and the dial to control the infotainment screen. The plastic can be bit prone to scratches, and also it's a fingerprint magnet, especially when the light is falling on it, so yeah, you have to constantly clean it. Now when it comes to the driver's display, so there are conventional gauges on either side, one for the RPM counter on the left side, and on the right side the gauge for the fuel and the temperature, whereas in the middle there is a 7-inch screen, and the information on that is very easy to change and quite straightforward. So there is a button given on the left side on the steering wheel, info button. You press that and change the limited amount of information that you can change. So in the middle there is the speedometer, digital speedometer, but the analog version of it. And in the middle there is more information like drive information, then digital speed if you want to see that, and the safety systems, lane keep assist and all that. Or if you just want the traditional dial on your screen, you can do that. And on either side you would find information for the range and also the instantaneous fuel economy. Again, those can be also limited or removed completely. So you go into the settings option where there is in vehicle display, go in, and then the instrument cluster display where fuel efficiency range display type 1, type 2, mix it into more digital form instead of the scale one, or you can completely switch it off if you are distracted by it. So yeah, those are just the options that you can change on this driver's display. I like it because it's just so straightforward. You focus more on driving instead of just constantly fiddling around with the driver's display. Now when you come to the steering wheel, this is a leather covered rounded steering wheel. It's a heated steering wheel and it's also manually adjustable, tilt and telescopic. There are also paddle shifters given in the back, a bit tiny to my liking. Those are the plastic paddle shifters. It's a 6-speed automatic transmission, so maybe you want to change and take the manual control. And there are buttons given on either side of the steering wheel. So on the right side there are buttons given for the adaptive cruise control, whereas on the left side there are buttons given for the driver's display to change that information and the various media controls as well as the voice control. So yeah, the steering wheel is also quite straightforward. The buttons are given right on the steering wheel, quite easy to understand and just being clubbed together very easily on either side. Now when you come to the air conditioning control, straightforward button operated air conditioning system has been given on this Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition. So in order to switch it on and off, there is button given on the right side. You switch it on, then the middle buttons for the fan, again physical buttons for all of it, dials on either side to change the temperature. So you get dual zone air conditioning system on this Mazda 3 Sport, and more buttons to change the flow of air and everything. And at the bottom of those air conditioning controls you would find buttons on either side for the heated seats. So the driver and the passenger side seats is both heated, and that's about it. That's again quite straightforward and it sits right where you want it to be. Ergonomically this car is just so good. Even this gear shifter is placed at such a proper position, like you rest your hand and then on the gear lever, there is no angle to it, straightforward you can approach onto that gear shifter, which is quite again handy and easy to use. Just go into the drive, or you put it in the manual or put it in the park. When it comes to the infotainment screen, this is an 8.8-inch infotainment system given on this Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition. And in terms of the operation, again very basic but very straightforward, and again it's not like there's cutback on anything, but in fact there are all the options that you need for everyday use. And in order to control that screen, there's dial, as I mentioned, given behind the gear shifter and more shortcut buttons around it. There's also a volume dial, physical one given, and a button for the favorite to select any radio channels that you want to keep it as favorite. So let's begin with the various options given on this infotainment screen. And this infotainment screen is partially touch screen, so I'm going to come to it when it usually works. So The first option is the information fuel efficiency monitor, Sirius XM. So there is a Sirius XM 3-month complimentary package given with this car. Vehicle status monitor. We go back. Then the entertainment, where you will find all your connectivity options. So in terms of the connectivity, you can connect to this infotainment screen using Bluetooth, USB, and there is also wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So when you connect this system with the wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, this screen becomes a touch screen, so you can actually move around with the maps, select the options on the screen, and yeah, that's when it works. But otherwise it just works using the dial. And I get it why, because when you're using the Android Auto, there are lots of options you want to select, then it becomes quite difficult while driving. Again, a lot of thought has been put into why this thing becomes partially touchscreen and sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, that's your reason. There you go. And I get it, because the screen is also quite far that way, so it's a bit of a stretch when you are driving it. So it's easier rather to just control the screen using the dials, which is again quite handy out here and nicely placed in terms of its position. Then we go back, then we have the communication when the phone is connected, contacts, call history, everything. Navigation, there is an inbuilt navigation system provided on this thing too. Very easy to control using this dial, which also acts as a joystick, so to change everything. Then we go back, then there is the detailed settings option, in vehicle display, sound settings. So there are 12 speaker Bose music system on this Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition, and it sounds absolutely amazing on the inside, especially with this build quality. The sound quality is actually very good. Then there is the safety systems, vehicle settings. You go inside the vehicle settings, doors, exterior lighting, range sensors, turn signals, occupant comfort, all of those settings on the inside. Then we come to connectivity settings, system settings, clock, voice recognition, temperature, speed, all the day-to-day settings on this. And then we come back, and that's about it. And if you want to go into the Android Auto straight, so you have to flick this dial on top, the joystick, and then it connects to the Android Auto. Right now my phone is not connected wirelessly through the Wi-Fi, so which is why it's not able to open the Android Auto. But yeah, you can tap it on the top side or the bottom side for Apple CarPlay. When it comes to the charging on this Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition, there is a wireless charger given in the front, and there are two fast Type-C USB ports given in the center armrest, and that's about it. But no ports given for the rear passengers. Now on this Mazda 3 Sport, there is an extendable sun visor, because these doors are quite long, so there is a bit of a plastic piece that extends. And on this you get standard sunroof, which is decently big in terms of its size. And apart from that, there are also more buttons given on the left side to call the 360-degree camera system, or switch off the parking sensors, traction control, and also the lane keep assist beeping if you want, or any notifications from the car if you want to hear. So all those safety systems would beep, otherwise you can choose to mute that from this side. Now when it comes to the storage on this Mazda 3, even though this is a small hatchback, but in terms of the storage it has been generous. So in the door cards, 1.5 liter worth of bottle and some more storage on the sides. There is another small storage, put your cards, that's about it, given on the left side. That is this big glove box, and look at the glove box, it's got this damping action, so it gently falls down and not like suddenly. Then there is this wireless charger where you can put your phones and wallets, and also below that you would find two flexible cup holders, this huge rest, which is a slidable one. But the only thing is, this is where I found the quality a bit wonky, because it kind of moves around a little bit. Now that's the only thing. And when you open, there is like this plastic piece, like a slot, so you can change that. Otherwise you can remove that and again put your phones and wallets on the inside. And for the rear passengers, in the door cards, again you can put easily 1.5 liter worth of bottle, and there are two more flexible cup holders given in the center armrest. Now this Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition also comes with two different driving modes, which is the Sport and the normal, and the button given right next to the gear shifter. So flick it in sport or switch it off. That's about it. Off is basically normal mode and sport is the sporty mode. Now when it comes to these seats, as I mentioned, these are dual tone black and terracotta leather seats with a mixture of suede material in the middle with this black color strap also. And even though these seats are meant to be more sporty, but in terms of the comfort, they are just super comfortable. They are soft, they are just so good to sit in. They provide ample of support, and even underneath my thigh there is like quite a lot of support, and even on the side there is good amount of support. And because the middle material is suede, so that remains cool for some reason. It's especially during the summers, and in winters also it's not gonna get very cold. So yeah, when you sit on it, it actually offers more comfort than sometimes the leather variant of it. And as I said, the seats at first they may look like does not go well with the paint work, but look at it again and then it all makes sense. There are two squidgy headrests also. So in terms of the comfort, yes, these seats are very, very comfortable. And when it comes to the adjustability of the seats, so the driver side seat is 8-way electronically adjustable and 2-way lumbar adjustment, whereas the passenger side seat is just manually adjustable. Also on this 3 Sport Suna Edition, there is a heads-up display provided, quite crisp, and you can see the navigation options and all the functions on that heads-up display, including the adaptive cruise control information on there. And can go down into the settings if you want to adjust the heads-up display into in-vehicle displays. Then that's called active driving display, where you can adjust the height, brightness, tilt adjustment, then what information you want to see on that heads-up display, traffic sign recognition, so all of that. But in terms of the overall visibility of that, it's actually bright and crisp. Well, things in the rear feel a bit tight on this Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition. So in terms of the knee room, there is just about 2 fingers worth of knee room in the back, and the headroom again is just about alright, but someone above 6 feet may start brushing their heads against the ceiling, although there is a bit of a cutout to increase that head space. And also I can't really slide my legs under the seat because there is not much room there too, but these seats have a bit of curve, so that increases and provides you with the extra bit of knee room also. And in terms of the comfort in these seats, it is pleasantly comfortable, I can report you that. Then these seats are again combination of the suede and the leather, which is the terracotta and black material color given in the back. And in terms of the comfort, as I said, they are quite comfortable, but you sit quite low down into these seats, which is why if you can notice the angle my legs are making, it misses a little bit of the under thigh support. And there is also a middle seat because there are 3 headrests, so 3 passengers obviously can use it, but there is a big tunnel given on this thing. So when I jump into the middle seat, now my head is already starting to brush the ceiling. So yeah, someone lesser than 6 feet should be sitting in the middle seat. And there is a bit of a bulge in the bottom and also in the back too. And the reason there is a bulge in the back is because there is a hand rest that has 2 flexible cup holders given in the front and pretty long hand rest, so you can actually rest your hands also on the back side while having the drinks in the front. But yes, overall the seats are comfortable, that will make the journey more pleasant. But yeah, the middle seat is not very usable for someone above 6 feet. In terms of the door card qualities, it's soft touch material with the suede material and the terracotta stitching on the sides where are going to be resting hands. That leather covered with nice plastic quality given on the door cards too. As I said, the plastic quality is actually very good. That enhances the experience of actually feeling this car much more premium. And the windows are quite tiny on this Mazda 3, but here's the thing, they are automatic, they roll down completely, and they are automatic and they roll up all the way, and all 4 windows are automatic, so you go down and they can come up. That's actually quite rare on many cars. And in the center console that extends into the rear, there are no air conditioning vents or there are no USB ports, and that's why the plastic piece feels a bit too plain. Well, if none of these things has interested you in this new Mazda 3, then the driving will, because it's polished, precise, and it's sharp. Well, that's the new Mazda 3. So powering this new Mazda 3 Sport Suna Edition is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder SKYACTIV G turbocharged engine that produces 250 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque when it's running on 93 octane petrol, whereas it produces 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque when it's running on 87 octane petrol, which is slightly different. But in terms of the power delivery, this thing is just so amazing. And not just that, this engine is mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission, and you may think that 6 gears are just not enough, but trust me, on this, the way they've been ratioed, they are just about enough. And the response, let me put it in the sport first, because that's where the trick is, because it's a sport. There's a bit of a throaty sound. I'm sure a little bit is from the speakers, but otherwise, wow, put your foot down and this thing just runs away. This thing is just so agile and just so sharp in terms of its response. It's just the moment you put your foot on the throttle, half a second, barely anything in terms of the delay in the response, but it just gets going very quickly. And the whole gearbox and the engine combination is very good. The power band is just incredible. It's just smooth and there's no turbo lag at all. The gear shifts are crisp, and even when I put it in the paddle shifters, there's half a second response delay. But leave this into automatic and just drive this car, because that is just pure pleasure. Now, in terms of the efficiency from this overall package, so inside the city I've been able to get anywhere around 8 to 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, whereas during longer runs easily you can get like 7 to 7.5 liters, maybe 6.5 liters also on very long runs per 100 kilometers, which is pretty good for everyday driving, especially for a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. So Mazda somehow makes things work, and that is all possible because of the philosophy called as Jinba Ittai. And that philosophy basically is that the driver and the car unify to become like a one driving force, and in many ways Mazda does achieve that, because the chassis, suspension, steering, transmission, everything just has to be synced well enough so that you get that pure driving experience. And in many ways it really achieves that, because when you come to the suspension on this thing, it's a little bit on the firmer side, but it's still sportier. But the philosophy makes sure that you get very bare minimum roll when you're turning, so lots of grip all the time. And because these seats are comfortable, the experience on them is rather very pleasant. The suspensions, I wouldn't complain, because it soaks up the bumps also very well. When it comes to the steering, it's an electronic steering, and such a sharp, precise steering, and you should really drive this car to understand what sharpness means in terms of the steering. And such a well weighted and good feedback from this steering wheel, and the overall response, it's like immediately you turn and the car responds. And Mazdas are some of the best handling cars in the business, and this one does not disappoint in that department too. When it comes to the brakes, there are 4 disc brakes on this thing, and even the response from them is rather good. And like even at high speeds, if you want to brake and have some confidence, these brakes would give you that. In terms of the noise and the vibrations, there is a bit of tire noise and wind whooshing. That is the only thing, but otherwise, yes, the engine sounds throaty, and that's what I like, because when you push it a little bit, yes, it just makes those very pleasant sounds. So let me whoa, it just accelerates. And there is a G vectoring control system, so that basically makes sure that there's not much of roll, and also when you accelerate, the car is balanced, so everything works together in that department. The G vectoring control makes sure that the chassis, engine, transmission, everything, even the suspensions and the steering, everything are just ready for you to have that balanced ride experience. Now when it comes to the safety systems, again, that's also very loaded. So you have 8 airbags on this thing, 2 for the front driver and the passenger, 2 side airbags for the driver and the passenger, and even for the rear passengers there are 2 curtain airbags, and there are also 2 knee airbags given on this 3 Sport Suna Edition. Apart from that, there is also child isofix points in both the rear seats. There is also a brilliant 360-degree camera system, and the output from that is very good. You can select a couple of angles like wide angle or narrow angle. That's the only thing, and you can even manually call the 360-degree camera system in case you want to. Look at this, the torque is always ready, like the power and the torque is usually ready, and the car isn't in a hurry to change gears, by the way, especially when it's in the sport mode. There is tire pressure monitoring system, there's lane keep assist, lane departure warning, there's also ABS, there is the front and the rear collision warnings, then there is the brake assistant in case you were supposed to hit something, then it would automatically brake. It has happened to me too on a couple of occasions. There's blind spot warning, adaptive cruise control. So yeah, safety wise it's quite loaded. When it comes to the pricing, so the base variant, which is the GX variant of this Mazda 3 Sport, starts from somewhere around $24,900. I'm going to put the exact price on your screen, whereas this top variant, which is the Suna Edition, comes in at $38,900, coupled with the taxes and everything clubbed together. It crosses a little over $40,000, but this price is well worth what you pay because the product is so polished. It's incredible and it's unbelievable. You really have to drive a Mazda to understand why they are valued so much, and plus it's going to be super reliable because end of the day Mazdas are one of the reliable cars in the business, and that's a fact. So you get sportiness, you get practicality, you get polished interior, premium interiors, and all at a fairly decent price, I would say. And end of the day it's a hatchback, so it's like this little rat that just goes so efficiently around the corners, and as I said, it's just a very fun car to drive. You really have to drive this car to understand the value of it. So if you're looking for a hatchback, make sure to test drive this car because this will definitely leave you impressed. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Give this video a thumbs up and thank you for watching this video. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, then you can click here, and if you want to watch more videos, then click here. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care and drive safe.